Welcome to Rooted and Rising Healing. I'm your host, Hallie Roderick, and this space is for women rebuilding after betrayal. Here we make sense of what happened, find truth again, and reconnect with who you really are beyond the pain. Whether you're staying, leaving, or still in the middle, your story matters. Together, we'll explore truth, clarity, and the quiet courage it takes to rise from the wreckage of what was into the wholeness of who you're becoming. You're safe to be here, in the messy middle, in the rebuilding, and in the rising. Let's begin. If you're a mom or a daughter and you've ever felt that quiet desire for deeper connection between you, but you don't want it to feel forced or uncomfortable, I want to invite you into something really special. It's called Becoming Together, a mother-daughter retreat in Sedona, Arizona, happening September 8th through the 12th, that I'm hosting alongside my own daughters. This experience is really close to our hearts because we understand that every mother-daughter relationship is unique and it's not always perfect. And this isn't about fixing anything. It's about creating a space to soften, to breathe, and to connect in your own way. Over a few beautiful days in Sedona, we'll guide you through experiences like breathwork, sound baths, mindful movement, even a vortex hike, and of course, nourishing meals. Each of us bringing our own gifts to support you, while also honoring your individual journey. There's no pressure to open up before you're ready, no expectation to be anything other than yourself, just a safe, supportive space to reconnect with yourself, with each other, and with something greater. If you feel even the smallest pull, you can find more information in the show notes, because you don't have to have a perfect relationship to begin becoming together. Welcome back to the Rooted and Rising podcast. So glad that you're here with me today, and I'm excited for our topic today because when betrayal hits, one of the cruelest parts is the fog, when you can't think straight and you can't tell your gut from the fear, and every decision that you're making feels impossible. And so I have a guest today, Betsy Pake, who spends her days helping women finding their ways through exactly that, to get to their own truth and when everything's feeling overwhelming. So we're going to talk about how clarity actually works and why it's not the same as certainty, and what to do even when small choices feel like too much. So Betsy, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, let me tell my audience a little about you, and then I'll let you fill in anything that I miss here from what I know
Great.
about you. So Betsy is a coach, a speaker, and a writer with over 14 years of experience helping women expand their potential. As a certified master coach, Betsy uses trauma-informed care with neuroscience-based techniques to support women through midlife crises, marital conflicts, and everything in between. Through her proprietary platform and online community, the Navigate Method, Betsy helps clients navigate new paths in or out of their marriage. She also hosts the weekly podcast, The Art of Living Big. So what did we miss there, Betsy? What else should our audience
I mean, I am the proud mother of a cat named Dean Martin.
I love it.
Yeah. Other than that, I think we got it covered. I'm excited to be here, and I feel like the conversations that we can have today are going to be really good. We both work with a woman in a similar space, and I think knowing whether to stay or go can be such an all-consuming decision, and one that I am very familiar with from my own journey. And so I bring training, but also my own life experience, which I think kind of gives a level of knowing. I know how hard that place can be, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That was going to be my first question, like what pulled you toward this? And it sounds like a similar journey as myself, of just the lived experience of, for me, I don't feel like I have it all figured out, but I'm a little farther than I was many years ago. And I know what it's like to be in that place and to not know where to go and how to navigate it. So anything else you would add that drew you into this work?
Yeah, I definitely don't have it all figured out, but every day I am figuring out more. And I think that's an important piece, to be on the path of self-discovery and figuring out where you're headed. I have been married a couple times, and because I'm very chic, Hallie, I'm very chic. So I've been married a couple times. But my most recent marriage was long and was a real struggle. And I feel like that conversation in my head of do I stay or do I go was all encompassing for probably close to a decade. And so I know what it's like to feel really frozen. And when you have something like that going on in the back of your mind, whether it's like, do I stay or go because this relationship just isn't good, or you have something big like betrayal or something along the lines that you work with folks, it doesn't just take up your brain power about the thing. Like, it's hard to work, it's hard to have friendships. Your energy is so depleted all the time. It can be hard to actually build any other kind of life structure around you that you love. And so I went through that. And I like to say I got the bravery to finally leave. And I left for a time period and did more of my own work. I had been a coach for a long time by that point, 7 or 8 years probably by that point. So I had been doing my own work. And then I like to say I leaned into hope. You know, he wanted to do the work and wanted to work on things. And I think that's a really important part of a lot of people's journeys. Like, going back also isn't a failure. It is figuring it out, leaning into hope. And a few years later, I got the wisdom to know that this was complete. I had come to closure in a place where I felt like it was complete. I didn't feel like it was a failure at that point. I felt like I had learned and grown in all the ways that I could, and it was okay to continue walking along by myself, leading to my double chicness.
Yeah. I love that explanation because I have stayed in my relationship, and I often think that women stay for so many different reasons, and there's no right reason to stay or no right reason to leave, and it's such an individual process. And with the women that I have supported, when I see a woman that is choosing to walk away from the relationship, it's almost like one week I'll see them and they're still in the I don't know phase of, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And the next week it's like, no, this is done. Been given permission, or I've given myself permission, or now I know. For some reason, the clarity just comes into focus when the timing is right, is what I have witnessed as I've supported clients who have made the decision to leave. So I don't know, would you agree with that, or do you have a different take on that?
I definitely agree with that. And I think I experienced that. You and I are very aligned in that I never tell anybody what to do. But first of all, it's not my business, but they do. But also, I know the reason that I was able to trust myself is because nobody told me what to do. But that's also what made it really hard, because I was like, somebody just tell me what to do. But I really think as we move through things, as we understand ourselves better and heal probably some old stuff, right? Heal some things. And then I think that moment happens when we are finally honest with ourselves about what has been really happening to us. Because I think that when we're in it and we want it to work, you know, I didn't want my marriage to fail. I didn't want that. But when we're in that, we have to keep our eyes closed halfway. You know what I mean? We can't see it all, or it would just be too much to deal with or too overwhelming. But I think there gets a point where our nervous systems are ready and our brains are ready. And then we see it and we go, okay, like, it's okay. But I think that happened for me in a moment. And I see that in others too.
Yeah. And a moment that doesn't come, usually from what I see, doesn't come in the days or weeks or even months right after. Like in my audience's position, we're talking about infidelity and betrayal. And sometimes they've been living with things for a lifetime. And sometimes it's something new that they've just discovered. And it can feel so urgent to need to know what the right thing to do is. And I also know that feeling of, somebody just tell me what to do. What are the 10 steps here that I need to get out of this pain and to know what the right thing to do is? Unfortunately, there is no 10 steps, but it can feel so urgent, and it doesn't need to be urgent. We can just take all the time that we need to rebuild that self-trust and get to that place of clarity so that we're making that decision from that space.
Yeah, I think things feel urgent when they feel bad. And I always say, like, what if feeling bad isn't something you have to avoid?
Yeah.
Like, what if feeling bad is just giving you a whole bunch of information about what your values are, how you're experiencing something? A betrayal of any kind, whether it's infidelity or just a betrayal of another type of trust in your relationship, is like an explosion. It is a total blow up of the way that you see the world. And I think that that requires some time just to let everything settle so that you can then reconstruct how you want to see the world. We're given all these thoughts and ideas and beliefs and values when we're young, and that really creates our reality. So when people do something that we think goes against what should be, it shakes that reality. That's why it feels so crazy. I think when we can let that settle a little bit, then we get a chance to reevaluate and decide that construction of values and beliefs, was that mine or was that something that was given to me? And how do I want to reconstruct it? And I think when we think about really creating a life that I love, we hear that all the time, create a life you love. And I'm always like, when am I going to have time to do that? But I think it is in the moments where things feel like they've blown up that we get an opportunity to go, wait a second, how do I want this to go from here?
Yeah. And looking for the agency in that. I love looking for the agency in the, okay, I can't control what's going on over here, but I can control what's going on inside of me and how I'm going to choose to respond to this. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we have a choice when we have that initial activation or trauma response. Sometimes it might feel like there is no choice in how you respond, but we can build that capacity and build that. So when you talk about helping women get to their truths, what does that actually mean to you? And why do you think that truths can be so hard to come by after you've been betrayed?
Yeah. Starting from your second question, I think we as women were taught a lot of things about what it is to be good, what it is to be a good wife or a good mother or a good woman. And I think that we are handed that when we're kids. And part of that includes putting ourselves last. It's really important that for a lot of cultural structures that we put ourselves last, right? Our husband goes first, or our partner, our kids. And a lot of that may make sense. But when we do it all the time and we never allow ourselves to have any kind of choice or authority in our lives, then we start to lose the capacity to connect with that piece of us that knows. I think about my own father, who is still around, and he's in his 80s and he's so great. And if I say I can see that or I can hear that, he is totally on board. But if I say I just had a knowing, he's like, well, that ain't true. But if I say I have a gut feeling, he kind of gets that. And I think that we are like educated away from that knowing or that gut feeling because it doesn't seem as concrete as seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting. So I think that when women can finally connect back to how do I actually understand myself? What are the signs that my body is actually telling me? And how is it guiding me all the time? Then I think when I go back and I reevaluate something that's happening, I have a whole other level of guidance that I didn't have initially. And I think that can make a huge shift for people.
So as I'm hearing you describe that, let me just check in with you because what I'm thinking is like at the somatic level. What is my body telling me when there's a right that's being pushed up against or a value that's really being pushed against? Like, what am I noticing inside my body somatically? What is that inner knowing telling me, that gut instinct?
Yeah, I think it's a feeling for sure. Yeah. And it's happening in our nervous systems. Before I was married, my sister lived in Seattle and she used to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks out of the month. So I'm in Atlanta. She would go to Hawaii 2 weeks out of the month for work. She did this for years. And I remember she said to me, you should come. Like, come and use my hotel room. I'm at meetings all day. Go to the beach. Like, we can go out to dinner every night. And I was so excited. I love the beach, first of all, but I would get to go hang out with my big sister. I was like, this is so great. And at the time, I just started dating my future husband. And he said, why would you want to do that? And I said, well, it's at the beach. I guess my big sister. And he said, I would never want to do something like that without you. Why would you want to do that without me? And I had a feeling in my body like, ew, this feels yucky. But I overrode it because of all the cultural things that I was taught. Well, he has a point. I should give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But then it changed the whole trip because now I couldn't go stay in my big sister's room. And so I never went, and I married him. And I think about that sometime because I'm like, we have so much knowing that we override. So sometimes I think it's about finding the inner knower and listening to her. But sometimes I think it's about just paying attention. It's already there. We just constantly override it. We go, oh, that feels yucky, but I'm sure it's fine. He's a nice guy, you know, and all those things can be true. And I could also have gone to the beach, you know? So yeah, I think about that a lot when I'm working with women because I think it's right there.
Yeah. I think back a few years ago when I gave myself permission to go on my first little solo trip by myself, and I went just not very far. I just found this cute little Airbnb on the edge of the desert outside of Tucson.
Yeah.
But I went by myself, and I remember going, this is big. This is big for
Yeah.
me. I've never done that for similar reasons and had kids and always given to everybody else. But I was like, no, I just need some space. I need some time to think.
Yeah.
That trip changed a lot of things for me because I think when we can give ourselves space, and I'm not saying you have to do this in a trip. I mean, it's nice if you can, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to do this on a trip. But when we're constantly in somebody else's energy, and if you're in this situation where you're trying to decide if you're going to stay or you're going to go, you need to feel what it's going to be like if you're not there. What does it feel like by yourself? What is your body signals when you're out of the other person's energy? Can you tune more into your inner authority, your inner knowing, that trust within yourself? And sometimes it can get overridden or lost in somebody else's ideas and energy. And so whether that be finding space for yourself for 30 minutes in the morning or whatever, but starting to give yourself permission. Now, if you can take a little solo trip, I've moved from the weekend in Tucson. I went to Bali for 10 days this year. It was life-changing.
Yeah.
So, you know, progress to something like that.
Yeah.
But you go with others. I went with other safe women, and there was something that just like totally life-changing. I was able to tune into my body more, my own inner authority, but we need to have some space. We need to intentionally create that space where you can actually tune in to hear what you're saying outside of everybody else's input.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I remember when I left the first time, I went into some Airbnbs. I actually went to Iceland for a month and traveled around. But I remember that first night that I was alone and I was in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, like I was like doing that kung fu fighting thing. Like I was like, oh, I feel so good. Like my body felt so good. And I think that that's like a lot of information that we stuff down when we're in an environment that feels difficult or suffocating. And so I think those moments, you know, but again, I came back. I had that feeling and I still came back. And I think that was an important part of my process. I want to keep saying that because I think there's not a right or a wrong or a right way to do it. Each piece is moving you in a direction of where you need to go. This year, I woke up on January 1st and I was angry, which is really weird because usually I'm really a happy person, I think. And I got up and I was angry and I was like, what am I mad at? Like, I love Mondays, new goals. I mean, give me a January 1st. I was like, why am I mad? And so I sat with it. And I realized I was really mad at all these old versions of me who never left, who stayed all those years. And I had a real huge shift in perspective that each version of me that I was so mad at was actually growing. She wasn't staying stagnant. She was getting to the place that she needed to go. And sometimes we can't just leave for financial reasons or our kids, or we just don't want to, you know? And I think that knowing that we're growing through each of those phases, we're not stagnant, we're growing through each of those phases, I think can be really important.
Yeah. I always say you're right where you need to be. You're never behind. You're never behind in your healing journey.
Yeah, you can't miss your own boat.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're in it. But if you can give yourself permission to look back like 6 months or a year,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of times you can see your growth. Sometimes I have to help my clients go, okay, let's just think back to where you were a year ago. What's changed? What's different?
Totally.
And
have you ever used Future Me? Do you know what this is?
no,
So it's like futureme.org, and it's a website where you can actually send yourself an email in the
Ah,
future.
I
I
love
do it
that.
every year on my birthday, but I'll do it if I'm in a hard time. I'll send myself an email like 60 days from today.
Oh, wow.
And I
I
think typing out like what I want her to know
Mhm.
helps like set the course
Yeah,
for where I'm going, you know?
I'm definitely going to be looking into that. I love that.
Yeah.
I've not heard
Good.
of it. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
It's good.
Yeah. I want to go back to something. This word keeps coming up
Yeah.
in my mind that you were talking about, like the reconstructing of everything. And I think that the word that I often connect to is reparenting myself. Because I
Hmm.
also have great parents and I had a lot of good things going up in my childhood. But as
Hmm.
the older I get and the more life experience of my own I have under my belt, I've realized that a lot of the things that I said I valued or the way that I showed up in my life was actually stuff that I just picked up along the way, but it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily aligned with who I am or what feels right for me today. And so
Right.
I like this idea of reparenting myself. I was at a retreat once and the gal said, you lived with your parents for 18 years and you were parented by them or however long until you left. And you've been parenting yourself for however many years since then. And are you doing a better job? And I was like, that kind of hit me. I was like, oh, am I? And I hadn't
Yeah.
even thought about like, who actually am I? Like,
Yeah.
what do I believe? What do I value? What are my rights? How do I want my life to be? And it can be different than what maybe my 16-year-old self thought it was going to be, you know?
Yeah. 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 And I think like what works for us or what kept us safe, even with all of our patterns that we have around things, like it may have been a really useful pattern at some point, but now at 55, the patterns I put in place at 17 just aren't really applicable anymore, but we
Yeah.
still run them like it's appropriate. Yeah.
Mhm. Let's shift gears for just a second. When we talk about clarity, is there a difference between clarity and certainty? Like, can somebody make a big decision without feeling 100% sure?
Well, I think anybody can do anything. So, yeah, you can absolutely make a decision if you're not 100% sure. And, I got to tell you, there may always be a little piece that you're not 100% certain about things, but you may have the clarity that this is the choice you want to make. I always think like there's no right or wrong. It's just which adventure are you going to choose from here? And I think that there can be times where we get stuck in that where we think we have to 100% know and we have to know that it's the right choice. As if we choose a choice that is labeled as right, then we won't have any issues moving forward. But there's trouble coming no matter what you choose. There's good things coming no matter what you choose.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think there is a difference. And I think that when we wait to be 100% certain about any decision,
Mhm.
it can keep us stagnant. I saw somebody post something recently. I wish I had saved it, but the woman was saying the point of life is to collect tokens, sort of like a video game, is how I imagined it. And she was like, your job is to just have a lot of adventures, make choices, move forward, change your mind. And all of that, you're collecting tokens, is how she described it. But it's really collecting experiences. And I just wonder if we took the pressure off ourselves to have to be right, what else we could experience, how many more tokens we could collect.
Yeah, and remove that pressure of needing certainty. I used to think that if I was afraid of something or if something like felt scary to me, that it was probably not the right thing. And I've actually learned to challenge that a lot. It was like, okay, the fear and excitement can actually feel very similar somatically. But
Yeah, yeah,
often if it's scary, it's actually sometimes more evidence that it is the right thing to do because change
yeah,
can be hard and new things are uncertain and scary. And that's actually where the growth can lie too. You've probably heard this quote, there's no comfort in the growth zone and no growth in the comfort zone.
yeah, yeah,
And whenever I am bumping up against something that's afraid, I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to do it. It's just
yeah,
I'm going to feel this. I'm going to allow it to be here. And I'm going to try to tap into that. Like, what lit me up about the idea of this in the first place? Why did I even consider this in the first place? And
yeah.
continue to go back to
And
that.
sometimes that's when we feel really alive.
Yeah.
It might feel scary or overwhelming, but you also feel really alive. You remember that Father of the Bride, that movie, and the old woman, and she's like, some like the roller coaster. some like the merry-go-round, it just goes around and around. I think of that sometime. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, this sucks, but it's the roller coaster, So if there's an up, there's going to be a down. So just keep rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep riding the waves when they come.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
like that wave analogy too. Sometimes you feel like you're drowning or you're like getting sucked under the waves, but if you think about the waves at the beach, it's always coming in towards the ground, towards the
Yeah.
earth, towards the beach. You're going to surface. And
Yeah.
sometimes you might get pulled back out in the current, but you're going to surface again. That's the one thing we can be certain of is that something's going to change. So tell me about your navigate method. So what
Yeah.
is the navigate method? How do you use that to help women get to some clarity?
Yeah. The navigate method is the process that I use to bring women through to get to a place where they know what's next. So the women that come to me that are the right fits for the navigate method are people that have been spinning in indecision, whether it's for months or years, or sometimes it's decades. And they're just ready to figure out if they're going to stay. They're ready to know that this is right. And I always think it's like a purgatory of indecision, like to put that down. Or if it's going to be like this forever, then how can they exit and do that really with bravery and integrity, is what I always say, moving through all of our decisions. So, yeah, it is a hybrid program that we use with curriculum and coaching and community. And it just really works to get people to a place where they're like, oh man, I feel different. And, when we talked earlier about like, how do I evaluate what I actually believe and what my values are? How do I even know what that is? And how do I even know what I want anymore? I think those two things is sort of the crux of my program, but of walking someone through like, how do I identify and how do I choose? And then how do I create from there?
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love too just that it's not about pushing any one outcome. It's just about really tapping into what's
Yeah.
right and what's true for you.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're in the program, I always say, like, you stay or you go. I got no dog in the fight. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with whatever. And somebody had asked me just recently, they were like, is this program, are you against men? And I'm like, my toxic trait is that I like them. So, no, I don't dislike men. In fact, this will make you a better partner if you decide to stay, for sure. So,
And
yeah.
I'm the same way. And I'm like, no, I actually am not anti-man. I actually think men can heal themselves.
Yeah.
They can do the work as well. And relationships can heal and they can be deeper and more intimate. And it's hard.
Yep.
Like it's really hard. And it takes both people to really be willing to dig deeper, to do the work that's at the roots of the dysfunction and whatever the pain is that
Yeah.
you're in. So
Yeah.
it's possible. It's just really, really hard
Yeah.
but worth it if you can have two people and it's the right thing. It's doable.
Yeah.
So I used to not think that the somatic piece of healing had like that wasn't for me.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't need somatic work. I needed things to change. And again, I needed somebody to tell me what to do. And it wasn't like slow down and tap into my body. That's not what I felt. Well, I stand corrected in the last several years. And
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, we're missing a big piece if we're not addressing the somatic piece. So I know you do some somatic work in some of your coaching too. So tell me about that and how you find that to be an effective tool to help women get to this place of clarity.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to do anything different than what our nervous system wants us to do. And our nervous system, on our unconscious mind, is really focused on keeping us alive, not on keeping us happy. Just alive, alive and miserable. If you're still alive, it's happy. And so I think that's such an important distinction and a thing to understand is that our brains would rather keep us in the ordinary because it knows that we're living. And so if then that's true, then how do I get to actually know my nervous system so that I know, can I make big decisions? Like, what is this feeling? Like, how do I calm myself? How do I reprogram a lot of the things that my nervous system gets activated about so that I can settle and I can make new choices? I think there's something really valuable about when you have healed a lot of your nervous system. I'm going to say it like that. Healed it, or you understand it, or you know how to work with it. then you can really use it. You can use it to keep you out of the crosshairs of trauma. Like it is speaking to you all the time. And I think that can be a really useful tool. But I think not just letting it run willy-nilly, as they say, is an important piece. So, yeah.
Yeah. And
Hard
really
to get out of your own way otherwise. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes somatic work challenging for some of us is that the nervous system kind of keeps us on overdrive. And what I've learned is that the somatic work is really intentional, slowing down and tuning in and expanding my capacity for discomfort. And I actually just recorded an episode on expanding my capacity for joy. And so really just like you said, getting to know and becoming familiar. So it feels a little counterintuitive sometimes because our nervous system wants to keep us on overdrive and we really need to intentionally slow down and tune in.
I feel like I'm constantly saying, just sit and think about that. And people in my program are like, I don't want to think about it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you're spending way more energy pushing it away and having it circle back. Like just sit, think about it, use some of the neuro drills that we teach, like to calm yourself while you're thinking about it. So now you're repatterning around it. Then all of a sudden you find the thing isn't nearly as big as you thought. It's sort of like you think the water is going to be deep until you step in it and then it just goes up to your ankles. Yeah. And you're like, I can handle this. And that's when I think a huge shift happens where you're like, oh, wait a minute. I can handle this. Like I can do new things, different things. Like this isn't bigger than me. And I think that is like a huge shift for people.
Yeah. And a huge drop in the self-trust bucket too. When you can do that and go, oh, I handled that. Okay, if I handled that, I can handle this too. I can build on that. And it does kind of compound on itself when we do a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. It just compounds and expands that capacity.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's a woman listening and she's in the beginning phases of this, like the question is starting to go, oh my gosh, do I stay or do I go? She's still kind of in the rubble, no clarity yet. What's one thing that you could tell her that she could start to do this week?
I would say to just sit and just spend a little time. Like, I really think if you could give yourself some time, go for a walk. Sometimes calming our nervous system is moving our bodies and just going for a walk, as simple as that. I think that when we are really starting to struggle in things, I think it's really important to say, like, I don't have to figure this all out by myself. Like, there are other people that have come before me. You know, listening to your podcast can give people a lot of information that they didn't have before and new ideas, start to breed new thoughts. And that's when you can start to get a handle on things. But I think doing something, moving your body to just start to integrate what's happening. And then remind yourself that you've done other hard things and that this is something that you can handle too. You might not know how yet, but you can figure that out.
I love that you were talking about your program has a community aspect too, because I think that community is so big. I often say nobody should ever walk a journey like this by themselves. And being in community with, particularly for women, I'm sure it's the same for guys too. I run some men's groups and I know that the community is huge for them. But with this audience, the community of safe women can be changing. I host intensives and retreats. And that's one of the things that I hear women say the most is like, I don't think I knew what safety felt like until I spent like 4 or 5 days in community with other safe women. And then they really tap into that. So I love that you have that community aspect of everything that you do as well.
I think it takes away shame too. Sure. Yeah. I think that's a really important piece of moving forward is taking away the shame.
Mm-hmm. And there's also something valuable about seeing somebody that's a little farther ahead than you. Mm-hmm. Okay, she's told me, or I've heard her talk about, she was been in a similar place that I am. Yeah. And she's up there, so it's possible, you know?
Yes. And modeling something different for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Betsy, I love this conversation. I know that you are the host of the Art of Living Big podcast. Yep. Tell us how else our audience can connect with you, and I'll make sure that I have some links in the show notes for everybody as well.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I hang out most of the time. And
that's
it's just
where
Betsy. Yeah, just Betsy Pake, like a cake, but with a P. And on my website, if you want to go to my website, there's a free video there if you're interested in the Navigate method. And if you are just interested in maybe getting a little bit deeper with what is it that's true for me, I have a really simple process called the bridge that's there, and they can use a code rooted to be able to get that bridge for half off. So it's only like $40.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that, giving my
Yeah.
listeners a discount. I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Betsy, for joining me. I love hearing what you're doing and appreciate being in a similar place of passion for supporting women. And I love what you're doing. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a comment or rate my show. Share it with somebody else who might need to hear this conversation around finding your clarity on choosing to stay or choosing to go and all the things that entails. So enjoy your week this week. Thanks for spending a little time with me, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for being here with me inside Rooted and Rising Healing. Remember, healing isn't a destination. It's a returning to your truth, to your voice, to the woman you were always meant to be. You have the power to rise at your own pace, in your own way. And when it feels hard, just come back to your breath and remind yourself, still I rise. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love if you shared it with another sister on the journey. And until next time, stay rooted, stay rising. You've got this.